Chris and I are going to go downtown Hayes and we're going to film the historical walking tour. Alright, so we've arrived at our first location, and this tour will kind of just tell a lot of the historical events, people, places that were evident in the late 1800s. Location number 1, Gospel Hill. The Arms Dance Hall, originally named the Globe Theater, was built on this site in 1867 by Major George A. Arms with money raised by his younger brother in Leavenworth, ostensibly to erect an Episcopal church. Later, the building was moved to Fort Hays by Hill P. Wilson and became an officer's annex to the Post-Trader's store. Ironically, the Catholics, Lutherans, Baptists, and Episcopalians all built churches in this neighborhood, and the area became known as Gospel Hill.
Alright, we've made it to the second location, the Town and County Jail.
Hayes City and Ellis County cooperated in constructing a jail on the site in 1868. Wild Bill Hickok occupied the sheriff's office from August 1869 to January 1870. On August 22, 1872, accused horse thief Pony Donovan was accidentally killed by vengeful friends of John F. Jack Wright, who had been murdered by Bill McKellen. The Wright Avengers poured shots into the jail, hoping to kill McKellen, but got Donovan instead. The jail burned down the following week.
Alright, so I'm at the third location, the Sporting House. More than a dozen brothels lined this and Fort Street during Hayes City's untamed years, 1867 to 1878. On this site stood a house owned at various times by the notorious Jim Curry and Alfred J. Peacock, who fought Bat Masterson at Dodge City in 1881. The house also served as the crib for soiled doves. Ida May, Emma Bowen, and Nettie Baldwin. In the late 1870s, open prostitution slowly but inevitably disappeared from Hayes City as homesteaders, who were not inclined to patronize the establishments, arrived in ever greater numbers.
We have reached the fourth location, Jim Curry's restaurant.
The Star Restaurant was opened by Henry P. Field in November of 1867. In 1869, it was purchased by Jim Curry, who had allegedly killed several men in Hayes City, following his return from service with the famous 4-cent Scouts from 1868 to 1869. Curry lost the building to John F. Jack Wright through a mechanics lien in 1870. In one of the many racial-related incidents that marred the early history of the town, Corporate Albert E. Cropper mortally wounded Cornelius Doyle, who was standing in the corner doorway on December 21, 1867. The building was razed in 1969.
Alright, so we're at location number 5, White's Barbershop. John White, a former slave, operated his shop on this site from 1868 to 1879 when he was killed by a train. John White was highly respected and well liked, and was elected Justice of the Peace in 1870. His barbershop was the scene of an unfortunate accident in 1872. 5-year-old Cyrus Goddard was killed by a stray bullet while seeking safety behind White's barber chair during a street fight. The trigger-happy drunks involved were fined $50 for shooting pistols in town and endangering lives.
Hey, we just reached location number 6, Cy Goddard's Dance Hall.
Cyrus Goddard's Saloon and Dance Hall were here from 1870 to 1876, a notorious place even by Hayes City standard. It may have been the site where Hickok mortally wounded Bill Mevlin on August 22, 1869. In 1873, the hall was the scene of the murders of Privates Frank Glissman, Peter Welsh, and George H. Sumner, as well as the mortal wounding of Buffalo hunter D.W. Gann. Dance hall girl Wow Sherwood was probably here when she stabbed herself to death on February 15, 1874. William F. Cody hired to kill 12 buffalo a day for the Goddards, and this helped give him the nickname Buffalo Bill.
This is location number 7, the Perry House. Joseph Perry built the Perry House in 1867 in Rome. Because Hayes City overshadowed Rome, he moved the house to Hayes. Cody and his wife resided at Hayes Perry House for a time, and Tom Custer's name appears on the only extant page from the hotel's register. Kit Carson, the Great Scout, probably stayed here on the nights of January 28th to 29th in 1868 while on a trip to Washington, D.C. Reportedly, Hickok also made this 2-story hotel his home, while in Hayes City during the 2 years of 1867 to 1869. By 1896, the hotel, renamed the Commercial House, was run by Ferris Keeler.
Location number 8, Walsh's Gambling.
John D. Walsh was a former soldier of several years' service. A tough man, Walsh killed ex-Leavenworth policeman Charles Blunt in a saloon brawl at Ellsworth on September 26, 1867. By November, he was in Hayes City, located on South Fort Street. He later opened a saloon and gambling hall on this site. The saloon was probably the site of Hickok's fight with members of the 7th U.S. Cavalry on July 16, 1870, in which Private John Kyle was mortally wounded. Walsh died of old age in 1905.
This is location number 9, Kansas Pacific Depot. The first depot on this site was completed in November 1867. Here, on September 18, 1869, Deputy U.S. Marshal John L. Jack Bridges arrested Bob Connors, an accused murderer, who was fleeing an on-eastbound train. Bridges jailed him at Fort Hays because of threatened mob violence in town, and the post commander flatly refused to turn the prisoner over to Sheriff Hickok. Bridges broke up the infamous Ledford gang of horse thieves, eventually killing John E. Ledford at Wichita in 1871. He became Marshal of Dodge City in 1882.
Location number 10, R.W. Evans Grocery.
One of Hayes' earliest post office was an Evans grocery store. He moved on to help found Dodge City, as did many early Hayes sites. On July 23, 1869, clerk Alonzo B. Webster, afterwards mayor and marshal of Dodge City, shot and mortally wounded Joseph N. Weiss. Joe was the proprietor of the local Omaha saloon, a former inmate of the Kansas State Penitentiary, and recent deputy U.S. Marshal. Weiss and Sam Strawham had been served with notices to get out of town by the Hayes Vigilance Committee, to which Webster belonged. They took exception to this notice and tried to beat up Webster, who killed Weiss. Strawham escaped, only to be killed 2 months later by Hickok.
Location number 11, Waters and Murray's Saloon. Moses Waters and Henry Murray opened a saloon on this site in 1869. In partnership with James Hanrahan, Waters operated a second saloon, the Occident, in Dodge City. Waters was post-sutler at Fort Riley from 1875 to 1889. Legend has it that Jack Hill, supposedly one of the Boot Hill's earliest residents, was killed while being returned to Hays City after stealing Moses Waters' mule.
Number 12, Kate Coffee's.
Kate Burns and Mike Coffey ran a saloon on the site probably as early as 1869. On the very day Hickok became the bogus sheriff of Ellis County, August 23, 1869, Father Sebastian Favre united Kate and Mike in matrimony at Hays City. In early 1872, the Coffeys moved their saloon onto the Fort Hays. Fort Leonard trailed near Walnut Creek, and there on June 22, 1872, John J. Barker mortally wounded Kate with a butcher knife during a drunken brawl. For some years thereafter, tales of Kate Coffey's ghost circulated in the area.